So if November is shaping up to be what we're expecting this winter, it's not looking very cold in the central and eastern United States, but I think there is a chance for that to change. However, in this video, we are going to look at the month ahead. We're also going to take a look at the severe weather that we're expecting as we move through the day on Sunday, also on Monday as big storms get going. We are also looking into the tropics too. Our next tropical storm or hurricane could be forming here in the Caribbean, so a lot to get to. Thanks for watching the video today, guys. My name is Travis Roberts. If it's your first time, welcome to the new channel here. A lot of brand new folks coming by here to this small channel, just bumping our subscriber numbers up, just soaring past 9,000 on our way to 5 figures. So thanks for being a part. If you'd like to help out and subscribe, I absolutely would appreciate it. Now, let's talk about where our temperatures are going over the next month or so. This is the latest outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. If you've not seen it, this is no surprise. I mean, no surprise to me anyway. You guys know what I'm talking about. You've probably seen this in the last videos that I've put out. We're looking at above normal temperatures here in the east. This is not shocking based on the pattern it's setting up across the West Coast. Also, the long-term weekly and the GFS ensembles, the European weeklies, all indicating that we're going to stay above average. Now, there may be a shot of cold air around the middle of the month, but otherwise, I think this month is looking warm and maybe even cooler than average across the West. We'll get that in just a second. I'll show you why. Now, it's been dry in many areas. I get it. We stay below normal. It looks like at least across the extreme East Coast up into the Northeast. But our weather pattern changing. That's going to bring more moisture here. Our storm track likely moving like this. So if your storm track is coming into the West Coast, which looks like that will continue, your storms are going to ride toward the Great Lakes. So out ahead of that, a lot of Gulf moisture starts getting pulled north. So our precipitation will be above normal here. Also into the Pacific Northwest with those storms that continue to crash into the coast. All right, now let's look at what's going on. First of all, into the tropics. Again, this area here showing about an 80% chance of formation now, at least in the 7 days, and as high as 60% as we head through the weekend. The concern continues to be this high here off the coast, at least this upper high, driving everything here north into Cuba. And then where does it go? Well, this is today's ensemble runs. A little more agreement that something would be here. Now, some of the models, at least the ensembles, were really spread far apart. We're starting to see some consensus around something moving into the Gulf. When does it come ashore? Where does it come ashore? How does it come ashore? I think a lot of questions are there. So that's something to, again, at this moment, just keep an eye on. A quick look at temperatures. I showed you guys where we're looking at above normal temperatures in November, and there are a few things I want to point out. First off, the jet stream pattern has really just moved into the west here. We've had these storms forming in the Gulf of Alaska with a strong temperature difference with your Arctic air forming across Siberia, inside Alaska, warmer than normal waters, at least here off the coast of Japan. So with that, we've gotten these big storms that have just spun up here, and that would likely continue to move into the west across the east in response. That ridging holding sharp here, and with the southwest flow keeping us above average. There's also still some unfrozen water here. It's easy to see just north of Alaska. We've got ice now across here just north of Siberia, creating that bridge, if you will, of ice and water. No longer water, now we're looking at ice. So any cold air forming here has a better chance of staying cold as it moves across the North Pole. However, if it starts to swing around toward Alaska, it's going to move across this open water. It will be slightly modified. Some of that heat energy that is in the ocean still will likely warm that Arctic air up a little bit, at least as it moves across the open water for now, which eventually will end up freezing over. But it's still open. Cold air building here in Alaska, that is forming every night as we get colder and colder, and every day with those low sun angles. So that will continue as we move through the month, until, again, we start to see this freeze up and our weather pattern starts to bring some of this cold air across. Not a lot of huge changes, at least across the Great North. And I would also argue across really the lower 48 and parts of Canada too. Now let's talk about the severe weather that's in the forecast as we head into Sunday. A widespread area here from Nebraska all the way down into Texas. The strongest area would be here into central and southern Oklahoma, into Texas. It does include Dallas. We could see a few strong severe thunderstorms, and the ingredients will be there for a few tornadoes. That does include Dallas, does include up here to central Oklahoma, even into parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, East Texas, and as far north as parts of Kansas. as we head into the afternoon and evening hours. And once you get into day 3, so now we're moving into Monday, that threat shifts off to the east just a little bit. These colors may not be what you're used to seeing, but you can see a slight risk. That would be really a 2 out of 5 on the scale here for some strong damaging winds. And I think the tornado threat continues as we now head into Monday, maybe even Tuesday. Let's time the storms out as we move through Sunday. Showers and thunderstorms going here across West Texas. That first round moving to the northeast. There could be a few strong embedded storms here, but everything now firing here across West Texas, moving east and north as we move through the lunchtime hour. And again, there could be some tornadoes here with some of these. A lot of wind shear. That's that change of wind direction with height. You got your upper low spinning back here to the west. Some pretty chilly air, some snow flying here in the mountains. Out ahead of it, just a stream of Gulf moisture moving north. So the rain moving in with those severe thunderstorms and even tornadoes as we head also into Monday with another round that will be pushing off to the east. So multiple storms. It's going to be very active as we kick into this first week of November. And here's a wider look as we move through the rest of the weekend into next week. Quite a bit of snow still flying here across parts of like western Canada, also into the Intermountain West with this huge trough that's digging in. Some of this snow here into the mountains of Colorado could really add up over the next couple of days. And another system diving into the northwest by Tuesday and Wednesday. That system that's bringing the severe weather starts to move east. It will weaken, okay? It's not going to look nearly as strong as we move toward Wednesday, and there comes the possible tropical system. This is the operational GFS, so don't take it and read it verbatim. It likely will change. I don't know that this changes too much. What's happening up here in the Gulf of Alaska, huge storm just pounding the coast with mountain snow here, heavy rain along the southern coast of Alaska, and now this moisture will start to feed into western British Columbia, and eventually that's going to drop south into the Pacific Northwest with another storm. This could be another severe weather maker for the Central Plains and east of that too as we head into Friday. That's this coming week. So a very active weather pattern, and boy, does this look different. This one looks like it's going to bring quite a bit of moisture into the southeast, so maybe some much needed rain, and that storm pattern just continues to inundate the west with round after round of rain, snow, high winds. And look, we're really far out, but do we start to see some of this wrap up here into the Midwest? I mean, if your storm track is moving this way, it's possible. I'm not going to count on a shot of cold air as we head toward the 15th, but if there is a chance of that, it looks like it would be around that time. Again, the snow piles up across the west into the Cascades, Intermountain West, Utah, Colorado. Looks to be the sweet spot for the snow, at least central and western Colorado. Some of these areas, especially up in the mountains, 2 to 3 feet. That is good news for the ski resorts, which some of them kicking off next weekend, getting the ski season started. And then across the mountains of Montana, Idaho, up into the Canadian Rockies, some heavy snow, and also the coastal ranges of British Columbia. As this onshore flow just continues to pound the coastal ranges with a lot of snow. Now, once you get inland, the snow is going to have a hard time getting east of the mountains into the prairies of Alberta, but there could be some snow sneaking into Calgary. Clearly, it's really here from the Canadian Rockies, from Banff and areas west, all the way down here to Vancouver, up in the mountains, and then up into the Northwest Territory. So a bit of a snow shadow effect, if you will, here to the east side of the mountains out into the prairies. Temperature-wise, now I showed you the outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. I'm going to take you a little bit more long-term here with the European weeklies, clearly showing that colder than average weather expected across the west coast. This would take us through the end of the month, and I think we stay above average in the east with that setup. With our trough in the west, our ridge in the east, I don't see a break in this pattern, at least for the foreseeable future. And this will push some really warm air up into Canada as well, although we are starting to get in late November, so even above average here isn't looking too warm. Maybe a shot of some cool air toward the middle of the month, but really that might just kick us closer to normal for the mid-Atlantic. And then really pushing things down the road, you can take this and do what you will with it, but look at this. The idea would be as we head into December, a lot of the models are still pointing at this weather pattern. That means a bust for snow lovers in the east as we head into December. Will a storm sneak up every now and then, possibly bringing a storm? I think so, but what I don't see is the opposite of this, right? I don't see this big trough in the east with this cold air intrusion. That is not what we're seeing. It's, if anything, it's the opposite. Now, what might happen, something to keep an eye on too, if all this changes up, if this trough across the west shifts a little bit further to the west, that might push our ridge like this, and that could sneak some colder air here into the northeast. I don't know that that happens, but it wouldn't shock me if we see things move just a little bit. That's all I got for now. See you next time.